Hello everybody, this is Bobby from Mobot. Okay, today, as you can see, it's a bit different. We're actually doing another interview for you guys. Okay, so today actually we are talking about the future of cycling in SG. Okay, so recently, I'm sure all of you guys have seen it all started, with one social media post. Okay, so of course, during COVID, there were a lot of cyclists as well, but nowadays we see more cyclists on the road. People are debating on social media that whether we should do this, whether we should do that, but all this we'll discuss later on. Okay, so today we have two special members. Okay, one of them is a guest member, so he came back from the previous live because we had such a good time. Okay, later we will unveil both of them lah. Okay, so the new guest today is very, very special. I'm sure you guys have seen on top. Okay, later we will let him go through his name and everything, and we will go through some of the hot burning questions that you guys have. Okay, so today is more of an interaction kind of thing. The first part, of course, we're going to have our topics that we already set in place that we're going to talk about. Okay, the second part, what I want you guys to do, list out your questions. I'll be reading them. I have my phone here with me. Okay, so later when you list out your questions, we'll ask them to our two experts over here. Okay, so without further ado, let us introduce our special guest for today. Okay, Mr. Stephen Lim. Okay. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. So, Mr. Stephen, will you introduce yourself to the camera?
Hi, I'm Stephen Lim. So I am a volunteer with a few organizations. So I started off with Safe Cycling Task Force back in 2006. Right. So then it's sort of like one thing leads to another. So our very first project in Safe Cycling Task Force was the Cyclists Ahead warning sign. Partnering LTA.
Okay.
So that started in 2007 and the installation was done 2008, right? Starting from there, and it's still an ongoing project. So every now and then, if we see areas where they are frequently used by cyclists, so we'll make the proposal to LTA, and then they will do some site survey and some checking and whatever. Then if it's go through, then they will start to install the signboard.
Okay.
Right. So the most recent one was installed along Bartley Road down all the way down Brother Road.
Right. Okay. Just beside here lah. Just nearby.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we do. And the other thing, also an ongoing project, is a partnership with traffic police.
Okay.
So we do safe cycling talks. Right. So we do both talks and hands-on workshop.
Okay.
So that's a partnership with traffic police. The road safety branch that we work very closely with. Okay. So that is still ongoing. So as and when there are people asking to do such talks, whether they write directly to us or they write to traffic police.
Okay.
So if it's cycling specific, then traffic police will actually direct it to me.
You guys.
Yeah. Then we will arrange the timing and do the talks in the schools, in the private organizations, some grassroots events, that kind of thing. Yeah, these are the key things that we do. So that actually, because of that, then I got roped into, back then in 2008, LTA started this cycling facilitation committee.
Before they call it AMAP.
Yeah, before that was before AMAP.
Correct.
So it's also the same thing. It was a committee made up of quite a few like grassroots leaders, HDB, MParks, right, LTA, and then so we all come together to look after the issues in cycling towns. Back then, LTA was building cycling towns, right? So Tampines was the very first one. So that's where the platform where we discuss about all these cycling issues in those cycling towns, right? And then later on, LTA decided to change that platform into Active Mobility Advisory Panel, right? Of course, because of the environment change, now we are talking about active mobility, right? Not just cycling. Yeah. So that is one. Then. So I got roped into that. Then back in 2010, traffic police approached me. So I got roped into as a volunteer with them as a road safety champion. So that's an initiative between traffic police and Singapore Road Safety Council. Right? So road safety champion, we are more or less like ambassador. So we help traffic police to do engagement, public engagement, that kind of thing. Right? So I got into that, and then much later I got roped into Singapore Cycling Federation.
Correct. Yeah.
2014. So I'm now the
vice chairman.
VP for Safety and Education for Singapore Cycling Federation.
Okay.
Right, and then of course later on in 2016, when MPark was trying to do some sort of improvement with their networking, so they started this Friends of the Park core committee. Right, so I got roped into the Friends of the PCN committee.
Another project.
Yeah, and then I first joined them in 2016 as one of the member.
Okay.
But then recently I just took over as a chairman last year, September. Okay. Then end of last year, MPark started another Friends of the Park committee, which is Friends of East Coast Park.
Okay.
Okay. So that committee also kind of approached me to say, hey, can you come in and help us? You know, East Coast Park has got a lot of cyclists, so there are some cycling issues there. So he said, can you help us with this? So I said, sure.
Okay,
so now, to date, all in all, I have like 6 portfolios with me.
6 portfolios, almost 3. Half of it is chairperson, chairperson or vice chairperson.
Nah, but that's not important. More importantly is that all these are volunteer work, and these are all due to my passion, right? And it all started because I'm a cyclist myself. So I started cycling during my teens day in the 80s, right?
Wow.
Probably you're not born yet, right? So in the 80s, so we started cycling with my schoolmates, that kind of thing. Then when I get back to cycling back in 2005, right? Because I stopped for a while. Then when I get back to 2005, cycling in 2005, then some of us were chatting on the online platform, and then we say, hey, you know, this is not good, this is not safe, that kind of thing. So some guys started saying, hey, I think we should stop talking. Why not we meet and do something, right? So I was thinking, yeah, why not? So I mean, of course, I can choose to say every day I write a complaint letter, you know.
Wait for people to do something.
Or every day I go online and then I rant about the whole issue. But then I was thinking, instead of spending that time and energy doing that, I might as well step forward and try to make some changes, right, physically. So we got together, we chat, we talk about it, and then we had some plan, and then we found out that there's a really a society, registered society, called Safe Cycling Task Force, right? A little bit background, the society was started back in 2005, after a very bad fatal accident in 2004 December. So a group of cycling friends of the deceased, they band together and say, hey, I think we need to do something, right? And one of them is actually Mr. Teo Selak. So the whole group. So one of them was Mr. Teo Selak. So they all band together and say they started this Safe Cycling Task Force. They went registered society. They wanted to do something. So then we got. Because 2006 is the time where we came out to talk about it. Then we found out there's this society, right? So we talked to the then president, Adrian Mock, and say, hey, you know, we want to do something. So he said, then why not you guys join us, right? Instead of reinventing the wheel, so why not you guys join? So that's how I got started, you know, and then until today, so that's what I want.
16 years.
15? Yeah.
Impressive. Before we go back to Mr. Steven, I want to introduce our recurring guest, who has a very special message for them, Mr. Denis Koh. So Mr. Denis Koh is actually a returning guest. Round of applause from the previous live interview. He also has a very impressive list of roles under his belt also. So Mr. Denis, will you give a short introduction as well as your special message for all of our viewers?
Well, I'm happy to back again, and always good, you know, to be on air with my brother here, right? Always supporting, and so hopefully we will get a very good session out of this, and a lot of learning, you know, things that people can you know, take on. Right.
So take away.
Yeah.
Okay. So special message.
Special message
about the like and share.
Don't forget to like and share.
Don't forget to like
right?
and share.
Bobby has got all the free gifts.
Free gifts. Today no free gift, but I heard if we get 10,000 views, Mr. Stephen Lim will sign one of the bicycle. Then
wow.
don't have such thing lah. Okay. So do like and share, because why is this important? Because we need to stand up for our community, especially if you are a cyclist, even if you are a pedestrian, or if you are a normal road user. This is very important to you. You want to know what's going on. You want to fight like these guys, okay, they volunteer for what they are passionate about. So everyone, we should stand together. I think it's right time lah. Okay, so you know, this right now seems like how it was a few years back, just 2 years back when we had the e-scooter saga. Everyone was talking every day the news, Mothership, Straits Times, every day is reporting on this. Okay, so let's get, you know, to some of the things that we want to talk about. Okay, so there's been, you know, endless reporting on social media, okay, by the media, okay, discussion on social media as well. Okay, so can we please ask you, what is going on right now to cause this whole frenzy behind the cycling, you know, cycling community? What is going on?
Well, I think the first thing is that I think, you know, they always say, you know, the good things a lot of people don't know. Right? So once there's something bad, it travels miles and miles. You know? So I guess this is like some kind of effect. And then of course the advancement of social media plays a big role in this. Right? So everybody starts sharing the same news every time, you know, then different kind of comments come in. So in a way, I would think that this whole matter is sort of being blown out of proportion, right,
I agree.
by the social media, actually. Right? I mean, if you talk about, honestly, if you talk about bad cyclists, it's not just like a few weeks ago, right? This thing has been like around for a while.
Correct.
So it's just that sometimes when certain thing happens, right, and suddenly there's a major attention to it, okay, and then the social media helps to roll this thing,
blow it bigger
and bigger.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you look at the issue, it's actually not new, right? Of course, I must say, I'm not saying that it's who is right, who is wrong, all right, or cyclists, or am I saying that, you know, okay, it's the norm for to have bad cycling? No.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that this issue now, why are we sitting here talking about this? All this is because if you realize it's being blown out of proportion.
I agree.
Right? If you talk about bad cyclists, based on that few videos, okay, I think one reason for that is also because not many cyclists or pedestrians actually carries a recording camera.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
If all of the cyclists and the pedestrians actually carries a recording camera, I'm sure we will have as many, if not more,
that is very
video footages to show that, you know, there are errant drivers, drivers being reckless, not giving way, you know. Yeah. So now what we are seeing online, especially, are all the video footages of bad cyclists, because now most of the car, they have this dash cam.
Correct.
Right? But not the other way.
It's all from the car's point of view nowadays.
Yes. Right? So don't you find that this whole thing is kind of lopsided for one?
One-sided.
So I don't think, you know, we should continue to generate such so-called attention to this based on one, you know, one-sided event. Yeah. So I guess let's come down and look at things more objectively.
Come down and talk about it, which is what we are doing today lah. Okay. So as you know, Mr. Steven just said, okay, I also agree. It's kind of suddenly, wow, the whole Singapore is talking about cyclists, all this. Last time people that don't cycle, people that don't care about cyclists, people that don't care about cycling are now commenting on social media, having long posts, all this.
Exactly.
Okay. So right now, I think a lot of people are curious, okay? If all this is happening, what actually are the current policies that actually the government is putting in place to curb the current, you know, the focal point of today, which is the errant cyclist, the focal point of everybody's attention, including the media and social media. What are the policies in place right now?
Okay, first of all, I think there are some policies, or rather rules and regulations are already in place all this while, right? So it takes the user to actually follow that. Okay. Next thing is, of course, I think just over the weekend.
Correct,
so
right.
we saw. Okay, so traffic police and LTA actually make an joint effort.
Correct.
To go out there and then pin down the errant cyclists. Right. Yeah. And that is exactly where and who we want to pin. Right? Because majority of the cyclists, okay, when I say cyclists, I mean all kinds of cyclists, right? Your foreign workers, auntie uncles going to market, students, you know, sports cyclists. So majority of cyclists are actually law-abiding. They are pretty safe
I would say
riders,
responsible.
Yes, responsible. You know, responsible is the key thing, right? But it's a minority, okay, of road cyclists that actually start to flout the rules or ride dangerously, you know, and then unfortunately being captured by drivers. So then that's how this whole thing comes on, right? But the policies are already there. The rules, like such as you know, you should stop at red light, you should ride on the left-hand side. You know, you shouldn't be in any other lanes unless you are making a right turn, right? Or unless the left lane is left turn only, and then when you are going straight, then you move on to the second lane, right? Yeah. Otherwise, so all these are already there, and it's just unfortunately some of these guys are just not following that.
That's true.
Right. Yeah. So now the only thing is now let's see what the review will come up.
Correct.
After the engagement session. See what kind of review and recommendation that will come out. But otherwise, I think all these are already in place, already there. Yeah. So we just need the user to follow.
Correct. Actually, this is the same for driving and pedestrians as well.
Exactly.
There will always be a small group, as Mr. Denis Koh also said last time that we was here. There's always a small group that don't follow the rules with everything.
Even pedestrian, you have jaywalkers, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Even cars also, you have people
drivers
speeding,
also have
all this. Yeah. So we will get to that, okay, right now. Okay, actually we'll follow this up with 3 glaring topics. Okay, the attention of in everyone's mind. Okay, so first of all, the group, right now, the group of cyclists, I would say we saw the news article where you were interviewed. People are divided. People are divided from where we want to go. Okay, same as back then when e-scooter, people are divided. Okay, so there is one group that is saying ban cyclists from the footpath or from the road. Okay, this is a bit extremist, I would say, because then they go where? Okay, then the second group, they are saying that, you know, we need to register all bicycles. So a bit of background info for them. Okay, I just saw an infographic on this. 1981 was the year that government called for the registration of bicycles. 1982, it was abolished. Okay, and in 2010 was when cyclists can go on the pedestrian pathway again. So now, almost, I would say 40 years later, 40 years later, people are calling for registration of cyclists again. Okay, just right, 39 years. Okay, so this, and also lastly, we are going to talk about the future of cycling in Singapore. Okay, will it turn out like e-scooter or all this? Yeah, but we will talk about this lah. Okay, so for all of you guys that are watching right now, okay, do continue to like and share, as Mr. Denis said, like and share. Okay?
Free gift, right?
Free gift. Okay, today no free gift, no free gift. Okay, and ask your questions for these 2 gentlemen over here. They will be answering it later. Okay, so we will get started on the first thing, the most glaring one on everyone's mind. Okay, ban. Okay, in Singapore, always anything go wrong, we talk about ban. Last time, those people that serve NS, anything go wrong, we will ban or do this, do that. Okay, so people are saying ban bicycles from pedestrian walkways. Okay, many people are saying because the pedestrians are facing difficulty walking, just like how it was back when we had e-scooter, because the pathways are narrow. So this one we understand. People are saying ban bicycles from roads too. Okay, so do you think this ban culture of resolving matters is justifiable? And do you think this comments on social media and on the media itself, okay, represents the majority? Or is it only minority saying all this?
Okay, so maybe before I start off, right, perhaps I just want to make a slight correction on what you just said. I think 1981 was the year where they lift up the registration. The registration was in place
Way
I
before.
can't remember when they started.
Okay,
but when I was very young, probably they started in the 60s.
Okay.
So in the 70s, when I was very young, I already saw this little red plate. So that was already there. But I think 1981 or 82 was the time where they lift up that registration thing. Okay. Then the other thing is that cyclists were allowed back. I wouldn't say back, but were allowed onto cycling on the footpath in 2016.
2016.
2016, not 2010.
Not 2010.
2016.
Correction, sorry, I'm not expert.
Because that was the first one of the first review
when
that we
AMAP
made during AMAP time,
Okay.
and then the recommendation and was accepted. So that was the time where, prior to 2016, right? Technically, all this while, by rule, cyclists are not allowed on footpath. Okay, but it's just that I think the government also understand. There are children, there are some elderly that cycle, so they don't want to make. Although there's a rule, but they don't want to enforce it so hard that you push everyone onto the road.
It's unsafe.
So, so they also understand that part.
Correct.
So as long as you are not like reckless or whatever, I mean, they tend to take a light touch on that part. Right? But that is very history, so now you're allowed on the footpath. Right? So it's a very convenient solution to many people. Ban, right? Ban is a very convenient solution. So anything that it doesn't suit me, it doesn't gel well with me or resonate with me with whatever I want to do, ban.
Correct.
Right? Because it doesn't affect me. Right? So, but I don't think that is the way we want to move forward as a society, right? Or even as a person. I think just now we were saying, right? So I always say, unless you live alone, high up in the mountain, right? You do whatever you want. But once you live in a community, in a society, then it's a different story.
Correct.
So you must know that whatever you do is going to affect the next person next to you, right? So in this case, the same. So if I shop for ban, right? Well, it doesn't affect me because I don't ride, for example. But it's going to affect Dennis because Dennis ride. Right? So what is he going to do with his bicycle? Now, not forgetting. So we have people calling for ban on footpath.
Correct.
We have people calling for ban on the road.
All the areas.
Right? So if the government hits all the core, what are we going to do with the bicycle? Where should cyclists go then? Right? So even you say, no, they can only ride on the PCN. Right? But there's still PCN, you can't reach the PCN unless you go through the footpaths or the road.
Correct.
Yeah, there are places like that. So I don't think that is the way to go. So same thing as what I've mentioned some years back during the PMD issues. We have also said that ban is never the solution. Right? We must find some better ways to deal with the problems. Okay? So it was just too unfortunate that the whole thing turned out to be like that. When the government decided to step in and take that position and say, I think we need to do something. Right? But given a choice, right, I'm still saying the same thing. Ban is not a solution. Okay? So then we have to look at the issue itself. What are we really trying to solve here? What kind of problem are we solving? Right? So to many, it's a cycling issue. Right? But if you look at it deeper, it is actually a road safety issue.
All the users involved.
Right? But and road safety issue, there are different types of road safety issues. Right? So there are infrastructure. It could be a regulation issue. Right? So if it's an infrastructure issue, then okay. So maybe this corner is too, or either the slope is too steep, or this corner, the bend there's a blind spot. Then that is infrastructure issue. Then we solve it using infrastructure method. Right? If it's a regulation, then we add in regulation to see how the regulation can actually mitigate this. But in this case, it's actually a behavioral issue. Okay. Yeah, right? Yep. So the dangerous riding, the beating of red lights, that kind of thing, it's a behavioral issue. As I mean, just now we mentioned, the rules are there, the policies are there.
Correct.
Right? We need people to follow it. So if that is the case, no amount of infrastructure or regulation is going to solve that issue, behavioral issue, right? You can't just mount 10 regulation onto one behavioral problem and expect to solve it.
Right.
To a certain extent, you may see some improvement. Yes, I do agree. Okay, but it is not a complete solution to say eliminate that behavioral issue. Behavioral issue, you still need to do it the right way, the correct way, which is education.
Correct. Agree on that. Yeah.
So education will change your mindset. Your mindset will change the way you perceive things, right? And that will actually determine your action. Right? Which I think that is more important. And in the long run, I'm sure Dennis will agree with this. In the long run, this education thing will do more than you go and now stack up 10 rules and
stack up 10 rules, still need people to enforce. Enforce later, when people not enforcing, they still follow the same pattern.
So I don't think we want to hit that way. Let's call for ban on footpath or call for ban on, you know.
Correct.
And the other thing, of course, if you look from the another angle, is that sometimes the issue or the problem is not necessarily created by only one party.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So I think that let's be, I mean, we don't want to blame anyone, but then let's be objective and then be open about this whole thing, and then let's look at it, right, at the bigger picture, and then see how can we all come together and solve the issues.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think we are all cyclists as well as drivers. So if you look at both sides of it, if you are just a driver, maybe sometimes you still, why these cyclists are there?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But if you are both sides of the coin, you'll understand from both sides how it feels like when you cannot horn from behind, the person is impatient or this.
So a coin, there are always two sides to a coin.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are always many sides to a story.
That's true.
So let's not just jump into it and then say, oh, okay, so this is a cyclist problem and let's ban cyclists. I don't think that's going to do.
So you look deeper. This one, you said it very well. Look deeper, look at the root cause, which is the behavior.
Then we address the root cause.
Correct.
Right. That is the only way that we can actually really, address the problem. Right. Rather than we now, I think in a way, now is everybody start jumping. So, but then you can't solve the issue. Right. So I think let's come down and then look at it deeper, wider perspective, and then let's see how we can address these issues.
Okay. So our next question. Okay. In an article in April 2021. Okay. Actually, this is talking about contrast between cyclists and drivers. Okay. 6,500 drivers. Okay, were caught speeding in only 5 roads in Sengkang only in 18 months. Okay, so actually, why are people are not calling for cars to be banned in Sengkang. Okay, nobody is saying that. But, okay, why do you think cyclists particularly are being, on this sticky end of the road, being whacked so hard by the public and the social media and media?
So again, you see, I think that has got something to do with the social media trending. Right? I don't think traffic police is not doing anything. Okay? They are always doing enforcement action. The numbers are there, but it's just that they do not every now and then go and report. Right? It's periodically there are times where they will actually announce to the public.
Post on Facebook all this.
What are the numbers, that kind of thing. Okay. And when they catch driver offences, but they don't go and publicize this thing.
Correct.
Right. Immediately. The difference is now. That's what we were saying. There were all these videos, of so-called bad cyclists, right, circulating.
Yeah.
Right. So now, when this number comes out, naturally people will go and make a comparison. Why is this number so big? Right? I think, in fact, someone was just mentioning, the 34 cyclists were caught over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, 16 were what, beating the light, something like that, then I think 2 never wear helmet. So versus a 6,005. Somebody make a comment, versus a 6,005. So are these 34 that significant, that dangerous, are they going to kill anyone versus that 6,005 could have potentially, I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, 6,005 could have potentially killed someone. I don't think we should look at things that way, okay? There are rules governing drivers, there are rules governing cyclists, right? The enforcement action are being done on both groups separately. Okay? So unless today you can prove to me that the authorities are not doing, on one side, okay, then we can start to talk about, hey, how come this, one-sided enforcement or whatever. But otherwise, I don't think it's fair to say, hey, why is it this way, right? So works are done back end. Then the other thing is that I also don't think it's fair to make such a comparison. I always say, okay, maybe you can say that the cyclists do not kill someone directly, maybe, right? So upon impact, they probably won't kill someone. But there again, it's not true. There were cases, some years back, there was a kid riding in the HDB car park.
Oh, right.
Right. So unfortunately, he banged into an elderly, fell over, and sadly the elderly passed on. Okay. So it's not that cyclists won't kill anyone. Okay. So sometimes some people try to advocate very wrong thing. Right? Cyclists actually can still kill someone. Right. It's just the chances are. And the other thing is that if a cyclist make a bad judgment, right, and the motorists happen to need to avoid the cyclist, I mean, swerve, go up the curb, ram the tree, could get killed as well.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? So, although the cyclist did not kill someone directly, but it's he's the cause of it. So I don't agree with such talks, that so again, it's a kind of like one lopsided. So you are trying to defend the cyclists all the time, and then so I think we shouldn't go and make such a comparison. Why is 6,005 and then why is it this one? You are not whacking the 6,005, that kind of thing, right? So yeah, that's my view about the whole issue.
We should focus on each group separately.
Yes, right, and then let's pinpoint. Like we said, majority are law-abiding.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So we don't want to whack everybody, right? So let's pinpoint on those who actually flout the rules, those who, the bad apples, right? Then they pick it up.
Correct. Yeah. Speaking of this, okay, we will get to actually, there were always black sheep, this bad apple, that are around, okay, because the minority of the population choose not to follow the rules, okay? So, previously when it came to the e-scooter, this black sheep actually caused us to lose our beloved e-scooters. Okay, so on the issue of cycling, okay, do you think that, actually black sheep, government should hunt them hard? They should always face the responsibility by themselves, okay? And do you think the government has done enough in this aspect? And what do you think the government should have done or could have done that is not done yet?
You want to? No, I mean, you can join me. Okay, I think what happened here is that, okay, many a time when we look at an issue, we tend to first take, how do I put it? Okay, we tend to take ourselves out of that issue. So this is like, hey, not my problem, Yeah. Then next thing you do is that, oh, okay, why you didn't do this? Oh, why you should have done this? That kind of thing, right? So this is how all these comments came about, right? So it's like, okay, why the government never do this? Why the government should do this? That kind of thing. So that's how they put themselves on the outside of the Okay, but if we look at it as I mentioned earlier, right, we need to look at the thing in the wider perspective, the big picture. Actually, every one of us are involved in this whole thing. Okay, because we are pedestrian, we are driver, we are cyclists, we are PMD riders. So all of us are in one way or another. One way or another, we are in this. Okay, is it true that the government didn't do enough? I don't think so. I think whatever we can do, you know, I mean not us, but the government can do it really done. Right, registration, what inspection, theory test, right?
Yeah, even before all that, you know, when things were getting bad, you know, the very first thing they did was reduce the speed limit.
Correct.
That was one of those, you know, cooling measures, right? We reduce the speed limit. And then later on, you know, there's a slew of things that, you know, we do. And even that, people will say, wow, it's such a reactive, all the reactive work. Yeah. So there's really not something that we could really do that will please everybody. I think someone will still get the short end of the stick. Someone will still get angry, and you know, in Singapore there's a lot of angry people. Even if he's not concerned, them also get angry.
That's very true.
So even coming back to that, you know, will a ban really fit it's a one size fit all thing? I don't think so lah. But if we are already ban the PMDs and then you're going to ban the bicycles, next person they are going to ban will be those people jogging. There's nobody left to ban. Correct. So it's a behavior issue, and that's why I choose to spend my time, you know, fronting a lot on the education. Well, Mr. Steven here is, you know, looking at the back end and the more holistic view, and I like to get myself onto the ground and you know, go into the education part. My share of the work as well.
So if we want to start that culture of anything that doesn't suit me, ban, right? I think this is not going to end, right? So what about jaywalker? You know, what about the reckless driver? You know, those are 6,005 that got caught. Are we going to ban them? Right? So I don't think we want to hit that way. Okay. So has the government done enough? I think Denis has just explained, right? What was done previously. So it's just so unfortunate that it is not that it wasn't done enough, okay, but it's just that the situation was overwhelmed, and then of course there again the social media, the media wasn't
different
doing,
elements.
so there are all sorts of elements that came in to a point where we must. There again we say look at the big picture, right? So if now you have to stand back and then you try standing at the position of the government, and then you look at the big picture, right? So the government do not take care of only, say, pedestrian, cyclists, or, you know, so they have to look after everything.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So if the thing has come to a point where even after you have introduced some measures, curbing measures, right, and it's still overwhelming, then they have to take a very hard decision on what to do, right? So we have to try and understand that position, right? So by then was not within the control of anyone anymore.
That's true.
Right? So yes, we really want to blame the minority of black sheep, right? But then there again, I mean, no, I also don't want to like throw all the blame to them. Okay, I think the e-scooter rider may not, I mean, so-called those group or small group of black sheep, I mean, they may not be the cause of the accident, or sometimes, you know. Right. So let's look at the thing.
Always look holistically.
You know. So I always say, you know, nobody is injured. Nobody is injured here, right? Every now and then, sometimes even myself, I will make some little mistake here and there, you know. You know what I mean? So let's not get too hard on anyone, right? Even though, I mean, today I'm saying even the so-called black sheep group of e-scooter rider. No, I mean, we don't want to like ham them hard and then say, hey, they are the one who put all the blame onto them, because we all know that certain times, certain situation is actually so-called, not within their control as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? But so, okay, I think that brings me to the other point is that when we come to talk about road safety or even path safety, right? I think let's agree that it is never a me versus you
That's very right. Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Okay, we shouldn't, right, encourage the kind of me versus you thing, right? Which is why I say, yeah lah, okay lah, they can be the black sheep group lah, but I also don't want to, go so hard on them.
Yeah.
Don't go so hard on them and say, hey, it's me versus you, that kind of thing. So let's not encourage this kind of thing, right? Which is, I think, what is happening now. So, which is why there are so many comments, so much of hatred, the kind of negative sentiments against one another. I mean, it's not necessary that what we are talking today, drivers against cyclists, right? It's also sometimes driver against driver.
That's true.
Okay, driver against pedestrian or pedestrian against driver, that kind of thing. So, I don't think we want to encourage that kind of culture, and then start a me versus you war on the road, that kind of thing. So, yeah, let's not hit there.
On this point, I think Mr. Denis summed it up very well. Everybody need to be more responsible, more gracious on the roads,
Exactly.
on whatever pathway you are traveling.
Whatever mode you are in,
everyone should be more gracious, more responsible. Otherwise, this problem will persist forever.
It will go on because it could be today. It could be motorists and cyclists, right? I mean, previously it was what, pedestrian and PMDs.
PMD, yeah.
Right?
PMD.
Today is motorists and cyclists. I mean, what's next?
Pedestrian and cyclists haven't started yet.
Thank you. Please don't give them the idea.
So
right?
hopefully, won't come to that. Okay, so on to our next question. This is the last question for the part of the banning. Okay, actually, this is really a very, very hot question. Okay, so whoever you are watching, no need to watch your K-drama, whatever. This question will be the drama that you need. Okay, so Mr. Steven, during the e-scooter ban on pedestrian pathway, okay, you actually commented that the situation is getting critical. If we let it roll on for another 6 months, what if another major accident will happen? Okay, so this was when you were acting as Vice President of Safety and Education of Singapore Cycling Federation. Okay, so during the podcast, you highlighted, okay, whether a ban could have been considered only after the age restrictions and test requirements kicked in. Okay, so right now, do you think, the current issues and problems of cycling on pedestrian pathways and roads have also reached this critical stage back, same as when you were talking about the e-scooter back in the days?
Okay, I think the thing is that the situation is a little bit different. Okay, because back then was that, as we mentioned earlier, measures were introduced, reducing speed, right? And then trying to curb all the illegal modification, that kind of thing, and then enforcement being done. Right? So measures were taken, but the problem persists. Okay? So that is when there's a need to take that hard decision. Okay. Then the other thing is that, so when I was asked that question, right, so that came in mind. So the thing it was that steps was taken to mitigate the issue, but it's just unfortunate that it didn't work, so-called, right? So then the decision came. Right? So you have, that's why I said, so sometimes when you have to make that hard decision, you have to do it, okay? Because at the end of the day, the whole objective is about the safety of all the users, okay? And the back then was that the so-called victim involved, right, is the more vulnerable group, which is the pedestrian.
Correct.
Okay? And then, pedestrian is a very large group. Pedestrian is
almost everyone.
Everywhere.
Everyone.
Right? So everyone is a pedestrian. So then that could be also the reason that why the government need to take that hard standing and say we ban the e-scooter, right? And because at that point, the number of accidents involving e-scooter and pedestrian reported were sort of getting high. So that's where the decision came, right? So that's where my comment on we really do not want to, see another wait for another 6 months and then see if there's another victim.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, that's how the thing came about. But as you said, are we going to take the same stand now for cycling issue? I think we won't know what is going to happen, right? Because as SMS Cheong Tak has made it clear, AMA is going to do the review, do the engagement session, review, and then after which, then we talk about some solution and recommendation, that kind of thing. But at this point, right, we won't know where it's going. Then the thing is that I would think if we take that same example as in the e-scooter issue, right, then I would think that we would at least need to spend some time taking some necessary measures, right? Introduce some necessary measures.
Instead of just suddenly ban.
Yes, then before we won't talk about ban or any hard standing decision, right? So but now we have not even had the chance to actually say, apart from the current policy that or
really
rules,
there has been no change
right? So I think let's be fair, let's give ourselves some time to mitigate that issue, to look at how best can we sort out that issue before we even jump into that and say, hey, should we ban, that kind of thing.
Right. Give it some time, let everyone do their job and try see what the effect is.
I mean, I could have said that like 2 years ago, but or 3 years ago, I think. But I'm still saying the same thing today, right? So ban is never a solution. If you give me a choice, I wouldn't want to even talk about ban, right? But it's never a solution. I'm still saying the same thing. Right? It's just that back then the situation, as I explained, it's very different from today. Okay, so then today, let's look at today, right? What are the issues that we really need to address? How are we going to address it? And let's work on it.
Right. Step by step. Step by step.
Precisely.
Don't all the way want to jump.
Correct.
Suddenly. Okay, so actually this brings us to the second part of this 3 hot topics. Okay. Recently, there have been some people calling for ban. Some people are calling for something back in the 1980s to come back. So that is the registration of all cyclists, all bicycles. So I have seen some memes, with my own friends. My friend is actually, a cyclist. So I have seen memes of people putting the cycling plate on his bicycle, then in his picture. I have also seen, other people laughing about it, other people talking about it. Some are angry, some are neutral about it. So what do you think? Some people are saying, since it didn't work then, since they took it away, back in the 1980s, why should we do it now? And also, some people are also citing back in 2016, LTA said they did a study on whether this was feasible, but LTA said that during that time, in 2016, it was not feasible. So what do you think about this? Why are these people lobbying so hard for this registration?
Okay, I would think one of the reasons why people are looking at registration or even licensing is they literally take the motoring policy, which the car has got registration plate, right? You need to register your car, and the licensing of the driver. So they take that motoring policy and cap it directly on this cycling. So, which is what we said just now. Is it going to work? Right? So what problem are you actually trying to solve here?
Correct.
Then we look at the issue. So registration. Registration works for a certain thing, but it doesn't mean it will work for everything. Okay. For example, we all know that the bicycle's design. Okay, that's one big thing. Right? The design itself is very different from e-scooter, very different from e-bike.
Correct.
very, very different from cars, vehicles. So my question would then be, okay, what is the purpose of you asking for registration and put the registration number there, right? So my guess is that they want that should you flout the rules, I'm able to
catch you,
get hold of you, right?
Correct.
I'm able to identify you, get hold of you. Okay, so if that is the purpose, right, then how big should that number plate be in order to be, visible with bare eyes or even captured by, cameras? So, it's not going to happen. Put a number plate this big, on the bicycle.
Correct.
E-bike is still possible, right? E-bike, but it's still not that big. It's about that. But bicycle.
Someone got kids bike also, got granny bike.
So are we going to do that? Right?
Yeah.
So that becomes a challenge. Okay. And the other thing about registration is that registration itself. Okay, I agree that registration itself will solve some issue.
Okay.
Okay. Number one, bike theft. Right.
So
bike theft, you will be easily identified.
Correct.
Right. So with registration. Perhaps indiscriminate parking.
Okay.
Right, people start to chain their bike onto the tree, the lamppost, that kind of thing. So with the registration, you are able to identify, right? So that we can try and use registration to solve that problem. But we are talking about a behavioral issue, as we agreed just now.
Okay.
So is registration really going to solve that problem? Maybe, to a certain extent, very small percentage, yes. Because now I'm worried, that I'm being able to get identified easily. Right, so yeah, maybe. But then, same thing. I mean, with the car registration, you still see the drivers if there's no red light camera, and then they will pass the red light, right?
Right.
So then the point is that with registration, right, very big resources need to be thrown in to maintain this.
True.
Right?
Not just the registration part, but
to
the
execute
people,
this registration thing,
right?
Yeah. Then, if it doesn't work as we discussed just now, then are we prepared to really throw in that resources and then doing something that actually doesn't really work?
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is why from the beginning I said, we have to get down to basic and look at what issues are we trying to solve here.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Infrastructure, regulation, or behavior.
Yeah.
Then we address it accordingly, you see, rather than you start picking up things, from motoring policy. I think this works, so just throw into it and then.
I think a lot of them are also looking back then when the e-scooter and called for registration. So
that is a little bit different. Maybe this guy is better. Denis is better in this, right? But my understanding is that has got a slight different. Okay, the main. Because back then when we talk about registration of e-scooter and e-bikes, the key thing wasn't to I can identify you. It helps. It helps. Okay, but that is just part of the reason, right? There are other parts of the reason for registering these e-scooter and e-bikes. Okay, to deter illegal modification.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because back then, especially e-scooter, right? Illegal modification was a big thing. Right? Right. So I remember, Denis was like jumping up and down, running here and there because here got fire, that kind of thing, right? So this guy was running hell during that time. Yeah. So I'm sure that during that time that registration thing actually helped the community. So we try to reduce all the illegal modification kind of thing. Yeah, so it's a two different things. So I don't think it's correct to actually, again, use that model to throw it into this one and say, hey, it's going to work.
Yeah.
No, things don't work that way.
Yeah, but this is what gain traction on social media. This is what people like to see.
Which is good that why we are having this discussion here.
Correct.
So we can actually share the view from the other side, right?
Yeah.
So people can actually look at it and try and understand and say, hey, okay, maybe I did have a wrong thinking of using the motoring policy,
Correct.
Yeah.
Now it's all about fast news. Whatever they see, share, then people just, we should register. Or, but they Actually, I don't think a lot of people, you know, like the two of you guys, you know, really look deep, and because you know, you guys are
So
inside.
if I also may say, it's not just two guys who really look deep. I think Stephen's time today, he has explained such intricate ways that you know, AMAP has actually gone through all kinds of headaches and grill through all kinds of methods and you know, role play and all that to come up with all these advisories, right? So it is not it's not so simple, and certainly rules are not crafted just based on social media. One guy says like that, and then okay, then we all go to it. As you can see, it's really a whole process of think through, and you know, what will happen to the rest of the other communities, will it affect all the other stakeholders? There's a lot of things at play, and even right now you're asking about you know, the registration and all that. I can tell Stephen will not have the answers. It won't be just two of us, right? There's actually a panel of people, and every single person has to deliberate. Okay, and we agree to disagree at times, but nevertheless, when we make a final decision, even my time in AMAP, we stand by it, okay, because we weigh the situation. I may not even agree with it, but at the end of it, the outcome, I have to say, okay.
That's how a team
That's
works.
how a team works, because we feel that that would be the best scenario for the entire community, not just for pedestrians, not just for the cyclists, not just for PND, but for everybody. So we won't want to be in a position that you know, the rules in fact was already crafted bearing in mind a vulnerability of like pedestrian and all that. As you can see, it's quite weighted heavily to protect certain pedestrians as well. But it is not fully 100% pedestrian centric, because there are other stakeholders in the community that we need to also address, right? So that's how the rules are crafted, and we have Stephen here explaining to you.
So in case people do not know, okay, the AMAP consists of various so-called stakeholders or representatives from different groups, right? So we even have Florence Chong, she's a occupational therapist. So she actually represents the physically challenged community. Right? So if we were to say something which affect her community, she's going to jump, right? She will protest, she will bring up a point, we debate about it. Okay? So it's not just, oh, okay, you know, so the big boss said this, okay, everyone. No, it's never like that. So we actually went through debates, you know, like Denis said, not every time we actually agree with everything, right? But then if we, even though from my perspective, if I do not agree with what was brought up, I debated it, I fought for it, but then at the end of the day, if I'm not able to convince the majority, and then the decision made by the majority, or rather the so-called ideas given by the majority, if I look at the much bigger picture, which we are talking about on the national level, we look at from that angle, if it means it's better for the majority, right? And we go for it. We'll go for it. Once we go for it, we are all stand by it. Okay? So that's how things work in AMAC. So it's not always like, you know, someone up there say something, then we okay. No, it doesn't work that way. Right? We always have heated debates within the group. Okay? So like what Denis mentioned just now about, you know, the pedestrian safety that we have to look after, that kind of thing. And if you look at our sets of rules, you know, legislation across the board, everything, okay, you realize that the rules are, most of the rules are actually protecting the majority of the population, you know, or rather protecting the population at large. Okay, it's never a lopsided thing. Okay, I mean, apart maybe from a few like, you know, the women's chapter, that kind of thing. Okay, but other than that, right, most of the things that on the national level is always a very balanced, which can it applies to protect everyone. Okay, So we can't, and I really don't wish that we don't hate that way, that we start to introduce some rules or whatever that actually become lopsided and then start to protect only certain group of people, right? Yeah. So I think we have to look at the benefits of the majority of population, right, in this country. We have to look at it that way. So I mean, some people are trying to introduce some ideas, right? When we talk about this, the pedestrian and PMDs or pedestrian and cyclists on the footpath, that kind of thing, in the back. So some people try to introduce some ideas, right? They try to focus on pedestrian safety, right? So there are things like calls for pedestrian safety first, that kind of thing. I think we should agree that such ideas are very good concept for education material. Okay. So even when we make some recommendation or when we set up some rules, we always have pedestrian or the most vulnerable groups safety in mind. Okay. So, which is why if you look at the code of conduct for cycling, right, they will tell you always give way to pedestrian. Okay. So that is already in place. But to say, so if you want to use that idea to put it into a educational concept, very good, we should do that. Right? So when we educate people, we should tell them that, hey, you must look out for pedestrian. We should do that. But if you want to make it into a rule, then that is a different story. Okay? So I do not think we want to head there. I do not think this thing will work. Okay? Firstly, I'm sure you have seen before. We already have people walking, looking at the phone, having a very engrossed conversation with the friends on the footpath, that kind of thing, right? So I myself almost knocked down one pedestrian dashing across the red light, you know, while looking at the phone.
Wow, that's really
I mean, sorry, I used the wrong word. She didn't dash across; she was walking across. Okay, so if we still want to emphasize on this part and introduce a rule such as pedestrian first, right, or pedestrian safety first, I think what will happen is that we're going to create another group of terror path user, right, which is the pedestrian. True. Right? Because when anything happens, hey, you're supposed to look out for me. Yeah, the rules say I'm...
And everyone's still pushing the blame again back to the starting.
Right. So then also it becomes in a way, the kind of rule also sort of encourage the me versus you. Which we all agree just now that it shouldn't be that way, right? So I don't think we really want to head there. And then another thing I think Denis and yourself also mentioned just now. See, I think I will be very, very worried as a Singaporean, okay, true blue Singaporean. I'll be very, very worried if the government makes some decision based on social media trending. I'm not sure about you.
Not in our society.
Right?
Correct.
So if because of the social media trending today, everybody jump and then say, hey, you should register and you should license, and then the government decides, okay, I think we do it. Then I get very worried about the whole thing.
When the day comes, I wouldn't trust.
So I don't think, so far, I don't think our government works that way.
Correct.
Okay, and I don't think they should work that way. Okay, so I think, as we have talked so far, so let's look at the issue as it is, and then see how we can mitigate the issue, find a solution for it.
Correct. That's why I think this kind of conversation and this kind of Facebook Live opportunity is very important, because right now nobody is doing this. Nobody is really, hosting Facebook Live events.
It's sort of like lopsided, like either way,
Correct.
So it's either for or against, that kind of thing. So I think you really need to have. I mean, since it's all trending on the social media, so in the social media you also need to have some sort of voices that actually can balance it.
Moderator
let's not go either way, right?
Correct. I think very important today, both of you guys teach them a lot about how AMAC works, how this legislation works. It's not just top bottom. it's actually, there are a lot of consideration into play. Last time, I think Denis also shared with us all this. So I think this is very important for the public as well to understand before jumping to conclusions and saying this, saying that. Yeah, so I think this is a great session to have. Okay, so now we'll move on to the most fun part. Most fun part of our chat today. Okay, we are going to go to our Q&A section.
Q&A.
Q&A. Okay, so this one
go.
we'll really see what people on the ground. Last time I think Q&A we managed to do something. We managed to talk about whether the theory test will be free. Correct.
Well, you have a good chance now. I'm telling you.
Yeah, because of that, maybe now we have a chance. So
definitely.
Correct. So people that are watching, okay, we have quite a few questions. Okay, so those that have a question, you guys can all key in right now. Okay, so we will take a look. We take a look from the start. Okay, a lot of people are saying hi. Okay.
Oh, hello.
Good cold evening. Okay. Rise to sunrise. Don't understand all these. Okay. So people are saying, okay, instead of registration, this is by Joe Tan, should we also bring back road safety park? This is a very good question. This guy asked about the road safety park. So that one is in the East Coast, and I believe there's one at Ubi as well, if I'm not wrong. I think no more already, correct?
No, it's at East Coast.
East Coast only, East Coast only, okay? To educate everyone. So people are asking, should we bring back the road safety park to educate people?
Actually, it's not bringing back. It's still ongoing.
Still ongoing, right?
It's still ongoing.
The kids are still going
right?
there.
It's still ongoing.
Yeah.
The only thing that we maybe we can say to say make it better is that can we have more sessions per kid? Per kid, yeah. So because currently, if I'm not wrong, okay, I'm way too far away from my primary school. So if I'm not wrong, it's currently primary 4 kids.
I remember back when I was I went also, yeah.
Maybe you can remember better. Yeah. So primary 4 kids goes to the road safety park, right? So, but then I also understand that sometimes it happened that on that day, if that class is going to the road safety park and then this kid happened to fall sick, so maybe you will miss it.
Fall sick.
Right? So can we do more?
Right.
Maybe that is the question. I mean, it's really there. It's really there.
Yeah.
It's not to bring back, but it's really there. But it's just that maybe the question should be, can we do more? Right? So more session per kid, that kind of thing. Or maybe once with road safety park, and then another 2-3 times with other things. Or I don't know, like this guy doing the safe riding program, right? With the LTA safe riding program. Can we do something like that? Right. I think that would be a better way to go ahead.
Correct. Okay, so I think Mr. Steven actually answered the question. Okay, this person, okay, so this person really very pressing for the road safety park. Asked a lot of time. So you got your answer already.
Okay, just to put out on the road safety park. They have actually revamped a little bit. Last time during my school days, we go road safety park, either you cycle or you go in that like a car like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's a cart. So you have to go to different stations, the cart, and then they will ask the guy to chop or sign, right? Now using apps already.
Wow.
A lot of good work
the
to the road
police have make it
safety,
more
to the
interesting.
traffic police.
They have some when the school they go there, right, they actually have some online tablet games for them.
So it's like gamify, and then
they make it interesting for them.
More interactive lah.
It has revamped a little bit, but the team there is doing a good job.
I think one more thing to add on about, since we talk about road safety park, right? I think another thing to add is that let's not put the responsibility solely on the school or traffic police. I think parents, I mean, we're talking about kids now. So parents has the responsibility to actually teach their kids, okay, proper road safety knowledge. If you talk about, say, cycling, currently the road safety park at East Coast Park is actually open to public,
Correct,
right? So they have done the revamp. So the park itself is actually open to public. As long as there's no event or schools going there for the classes, the park is open. Okay, you can just walk in there. So parents can actually on the weekend or what bring their kids there to actually ride around and teach them how to ride properly with some of the road signs, that kind of thing. And then not far from road safety park, further down, there's actually a cyclist park. A cyclist park managed by M Parks. Okay. That itself on both ends has some sort of circuit. Okay, and it's a little bit one of the circuits is actually quite interesting because there's a ramp slope, right? So some kids can go there and play, right? While playing they can learn something. Right? Maybe not road safety, but handling skill, that kind of thing, right? So kids can actually so parents can actually do that. So parents has the responsibility, So sometimes because I feel that you can teach the kid a lot of road safety knowledges, but unfortunately the next day the parent grab the hand while it's wet man they run across the road, right? That squash everything. That squash everything. Okay. Right. So during when sometimes I go to school to do talks or small class clinics, right? I actually encourage the parents to come together. Right? If the school allows, let the parents come together. Why? Because firstly they know what we are teaching them. Right. Secondly, when they go back, right, they can check on each other. Hey, your school teach you this. Why are you not doing? Or parents will do. Hey, the teacher is or the school is saying that you should do this, and why? Sure. So it's an intercheck. I think that sort of thing helps. Right. So parents is also very important. I think some people like to use Amsterdam as an example, right? But if you all go and find out, those are things that the parents do in Amsterdam, right? So in school as well, they have more curriculums or what for road safety. But the parents also do. So from young, the parents start to teach them to ride, and ride together, that kind of thing. Right? So all this you cultivate them, the good habits and the proper knowledge from young. And that will bring them all the way to adulthood, right? So we always say that, again, we talk about parents, right? So when I go to do talks, that kind of thing, I hear some parents saying that, no, because it's very dangerous, so I'm not going to let my kids ride a bike, it's very dangerous. Okay, I think that is sorry to say, but that is a wrong idea, okay? Because we must take this so-called learning of the safe cycling as a life skill.
That's true, yeah.
Okay? Now, I think some years back, right, because some kids get drowned in the condo pool or whatever, so, parents get panicked, so they send them to swim school, that kind of thing. In fact, then the MOE stepped in and says that, all the kids, they have to go for swimming lessons. So it has to be something like that, okay? You can stop your kid from riding a bike in primary school, secondary school maybe, okay? But then you just can't stop them by the time when they reach JC, for example, right? In JC they start to go into triathlons and kind of sports, right? Then they need to ride. But by then they don't have the knowledge. It may be too late, or they start learning from, I don't know, friends or whatever. Or they get peer pressure, then they make some mistakes. So we want that to be a life skill where you learn from young and then you can bring it all the way to adulthood, right? And the idea is that, whenever I throw you a bike, you know how to handle it, you know what to do, okay? So it's like after you learn swimming, so somebody push you down the pool, right? You are able to survive. So that should be the way we should be heading, okay, in terms of this education, right? So we hope that parents can also look into that, get their kids into some safe cycling lessons, or even like I said, even though you just bring them to the park, the road safety park, and start teaching them. I'm sure parents have some form of knowledge, but of course it's better to actually send them to a proper schools, that kind of thing.
Right. So instead of being afraid, scared die, scared they fall down or what, but I think it's good to expose them. At least they understand, they learn, Then after that, next time when they are older, you can bring this.
Because I give you, why I say this, because I myself, I am a bad example. Serious. Okay. Okay, number one, let me tell you this. When I ride, or I mean when I get out, I see children probably in their teenager, maybe secondary school, riding the rented bike. You one look, you can tell that's a rented bike from East Coast Park, that kind of thing, on the road. Okay, so they could have told the parents, I go to East Coast Park to ride with my friend. So the parent, oh, East Coast Park, okay, that's safe. Yeah, but then they take the bike out on the road. So do they have the necessary skills or knowledge to actually mitigate the route? Right? I mean, we always say the road is jungle, right? Okay. And why I say I'm a bad example, okay? Because during my secondary school days, I did that. I mean, I'm worse than that. I'm worse than that actually. What happened was I bought a second-hand bike from my schoolmate. Okay, that was like I think Sec 2, Sec 3. Yeah. So I bought a second-hand bike from my schoolmate, and then I started cycling to school from Ang Mo Kio to Brother, you know.
Wow.
On the road. Back then I cycled on the road. Yeah, without my mother knowing. So I actually parked the bike in a nearby market. Okay. Until some months, then my bike got lost. So I didn't. So my mother always thought I walk to the direction is to take a bus. But actually, after that, I sneak behind, go to around the market, and then I pick up my bike and then I ride to school. So I mean, I've been through all this, so you know that's why I'm talking about it today. So that's why I say, you know, your kids may be telling you that they are going to a very safe place to ride, but then they could have brought the bike out. That's why I say peer pressure, right? Hey, come on, let's go. You know, it's okay, man, don't worry, you know. So you follow your friend, go out on the road, but you may not have the skills, right? So I always say that it's good that we start them from young. Okay, so let's cultivate. You know, parents has the responsibility to actually start teaching them.
Right. Yeah. As role models and such.
Any more exciting?
Okay, we see whether got any more exciting questions. Okay, I see there are a lot of comments right now. Okay, so right now we have quite a few comments. Okay, let's click on newest. Okay, so this one is very good. Okay, people are asking, how can we implement rules and regulations at the same time not discourage people to cycle?
Oh, that's a good
question. I think it's a good question over here.
How can we implement rules and regulations?
Correct.
And yet do not discourage people from riding?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I think that boils down to what kind of rules and regulations we're talking about. Okay. So the point is that cyclists is not a homogeneous group, right? So you have the, sport cyclists, commuting cyclists. Commuting cyclists, you also split, like maybe some are from home to MRT station, 2 km. Some are home to directly to work, 10, 20 km, right, or more even. Right. So then you have the auntie uncle who ride to market, buy grocery, kopitiam, you know. Then you have the leisure cyclists who, like myself, weekend warrior. You know, I come out only on the weekend. Kind of thing. I wish I can ride more, but I don't have the time. So then you also have the children. When I go to school to do talks, I've seen children as young as primary 2 or primary 3. Okay. They are riding to school on their own. Wow. Yeah, on their own. So because probably their house is like maybe 2 km away, so they ride on the footpath. Right. Then I don't know, nowadays, especially last year, right, with the surge of the, so I've seen online, some kid as young as like 5 years old, 6 years old are following their parents out for quite long distance, no? Wow. They completed like 40 km, the kind of thing. And recently I saw one on the Facebook, the kid was I think 7 or 8 years old. So the first time followed the parents, I think did like, was it 40 or 60 km? Wow. Then another time completed like 80 or 90 km. Walao. With the parents. Right? So then we have to look at what kind of registration what kind of rules are we or regulation are we going to introduce, right? And then that rules or regulation, how does it affect these people? Okay. For example, if I'm just giving an example, if we hate the route of registration and licensing, okay, so people have to go through all the process, register, you know, we go and study, get license, that kind of thing. That would the group of people, okay, that ride from home to MRT station actually give up?
No, they still continue.
They may give up. Why? Because I only ride 2 km to the MRT station.
True. That's
so why
true.
do I want to go through the hassle?
Correct.
Right? I might as well just take the feeder bus.
Correct.
Right? So that could be. Are we going to stop the primary 2, primary 3 kid riding to school?
Probably.
Right? So that's why I say we want to look at what kind of rules or what we are introducing, you see. And then it's difficult to answer the question specifically, but because it depends on what kind of rules we are introducing,
Correct.
how it's going to affect individual groups. Because as I said, cyclists is not a homogeneous group.
Correct.
So we got different types of cyclists with different types of needs and wants, right? So we have to look at. That's why it's going to be very difficult.
I think on this point, I think they, you know, the people, the panel may have to deliberate even harder, because taking from the footsteps of the PMD, where they got all kinds of regulations going in, and even some are inbound coming in again. Okay, could it be that it could have been over-regulated to a point that, as you can see today, it is nearly caused the extinction of a particular device, okay, or user group, and that at that point of time, just the registered ones are really almost 100,000 users, right? So I think this time round, all the work Stephen will have to go through with all the entire team would be to really relook at the whole situation before coming up with you know, regulations. Of course, there's no one-size-fits-all regulation, but they have to make a call. They have to make a call, and therefore this time will be exceptionally difficult, you know, to make the call. And even now they got reference, right, from the PMD, right? They have reference, right? We suffer, right? So going forward, I think that was a good question, and I think this time the panel will have to have lots of deliberation and how to go forward.
It will be even more difficult.
More difficult.
I mean, as I mentioned, it's not a homogeneous group, right? So you have to look at very, very deep down and look at, you know, how can we sort of do something, and yet, you know, we can cater to most, like you say, it cannot be a one-size-fits-all solution. But let's see how best can we deal with this thing. All right. So and then just now we talk about different groups, right? Not forgetting there is a substantial number of them actually switch from e-scooter to bicycle.
That's very
or
good.
even PAB. Right?
Yeah.
So that we have to think very carefully what we want to do, you know, with cyclists or bicycle as a whole. Okay? So we need to think very hard, because and that substantial number actually most of them are actually delivery riders.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. So and then, of course, on the other hand, we have to think. Cycling is actually a very simple activity.
That's true. Quite universal also, I would say.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's a simple activity. So then you have to think back, you know, step back and look at the whole thing and ask yourself, hey, do we want to, like, you know, stack up 10, 20 rules on a simple activity and then make it so complicated that, you know, that you actually feel the thing, right? So I think this time now it's going to be even harder than the previous
True.
PMD issues.
Okay, so we have 2 more questions. This one is probably Mr. Denis can answer. Mr. Stephen also can join. Okay, someone asked, when do you think, okay, this is a very good question. When we are also wondering, when do you think the infrastructure will be ready for PMDs, where connectivities will be seamless and be more accessible for the public?
So this was actually in our land transport master plan. Okay, as you can see over the just these few years, the path has become, there are many places the path has been wider. Look at the PCN, for example. NParks has done a tremendous job, making the PCN wider, and we now have even like bicycle highways, going round and going flyovers and all these things. Now, in the past, we never had these, and as the LTA and the government has promised, they are looking more into this infrastructure, and we are more cycling towns today. Okay, now I'm not a spokesman for the government. I'm just calling it as I see it as well, because over this short number of years, just within 1 or 2 years, we see all this infrastructure coming in place. And one of the other thing that LTA has also promised is better connectivity, because no doubt that they have the cycling footpaths and the segregated path, the red carpets and all that. My contention was we needed better connectivity as well. I mean, from the home, how do we get there, get to the cycling path where PMDs are allowed, to go on the cycling path. So they need to have the connectivity as well. So as you can, as we see today, more and more cycling towns. Of course, we cannot have 100% connectivity at this point of time, but also LTA has also announced that there are certain roads that they will reclaim from the motorists, right? Taking away roads and converting them into cycling paths, and making the paths walking paths as well, right? So this is not just in Singapore. This is happening all over the world now. Still, and we have traveled. Okay, we have traveled also, and we have spoken to the municipals of Asian countries as well, right? And they are also looking for this is the truth, the fact. They are actually looking at us and taking us as a reference, Singapore as a reference, as a garden city and all that. And they are also learning from us. We're the first country to come out with an Active Mobility Act faster than them, right? And they take our reference and they are learning from that. And I've gone to Global Summit, the Global Transport Summit, and many countries, they were actually trying to learn from Singapore and taking our, our path as well. So,
including Netherlands, right?
Including Netherlands, Netherlands, yes. Okay, so there's something that they also want to learn from us, and there's something that we want to learn from them, right? So as I always say, we can be inspired, we can learn from people, but we cannot be like people. This is our own identity. Correct. And I'm putting it here as a fact that there are many other countries, including Netherlands, right? They are also learning from us, taking into how do we come up with that Active Mobility Act. We are the first adopters for the PMDs at that time as well. So we have done quite a bit of work. And to answer that question, I think I don't have a definite year when it will be completed, but I'm looking at it. It's really timely. There's a lot of space that is opening up. Correct. Every now and then they are announcing one new PCN. You see,
just yesterday, new announcement also.
Exactly. So give them some time. You are now renovating a country.
Changing the whole
infrastructure. And this it's not just about the money. It's also about the time. Correct. And there's also COVID season. This period, there's manpower shortage and all, but still they are still rolling out. So let's be patient. Give them a little bit more time. Everything is going in place.
We'll definitely see this coming.
Correct. So in 1-2 years, you see so much changes. You look forward in another 1 or 2 more years, you will see even more changes. So this thing takes a bit of time. That's all I say.
Because I think that time, I mean, if I may add on, I think that time Dr. Lam did say, after the ban of the PMD, that LTA is trying to, make it all the infrastructure, constructed faster. But unfortunately, we went to COVID. Correct. So that's one thing. But I think if you just go and Google, you will know that the timeline or the plan ahead. So roughly, it's about become about 1,000 kilometers of cycling path by 2040, that kind of thing.
They
So
are
in
doing
between, there are some 2025, I think. Yeah, there are some coming up. So we're currently like some 400, you know. So there'll be probably another 300 by 2025, if I remember correctly. Okay, so those are in plan. Hopefully we can get them sooner. It's just that sometimes we need to understand a few things. Number one is, okay, like Dennis said, it takes time for, I mean, it's not just money, but it also takes time for things to be built.
Correct.
Okay. You know, we are that small only, right? Or right that big, right? So whatever you are walking around today, right? What you see is just a flat footpath, very nicely paved. But what you don't see is whatever is underneath it.
That's true, yeah. Right.
So in order to expand that path or build a path there, right, you probably have to get through PUB, you know, the pipes are there, gas pipe, water pipes are all down there, right? Or the electrical wires, right?
Yeah.
So then you need MParks to tell you, okay, I think you can remove this tree, or no, no matter how, you are not going to touch this tree, right? So everyone has got something to look after, okay? So it's how that they come together and then have some agreement to move certain thing or not move certain thing. So that takes time, that takes time, right? So we need to look at that. And in terms of connectivity, right, sometimes I find that, I mean, we have to be fair, okay? It could be connected, but it's just that it may not suit exactly my usage, right? For example, as we mentioned just now, the constraint and kind of thing, right? So the cycling path may reach until this point, and it has to go over to the other side, because further down, because of certain constraint, they are not able to continue.
Correct.
But they are able to build it over the other side because of the space or you know, whatever reason. Right. So you need to move over the other side. It is still connected, but to me, because it doesn't maybe, you know, I'm going in this direction and on the left hand side, so it just doesn't really suit my you know, because I will cross over, then after that I cross back. Right. So then I would say it's not connected, but it's not true. It is actually connected, right? So I think we also have to look at, when you say connectivity, we have to look at it fairly and look at, you know, objectively what is connectivity that we are talking about. Right? So I guess, I think we are heading the right direction, right? The overall direction in terms of active mobility landscape, I think we are heading the right direction. But it's just that we need time to really sort things out and get things done. So hopefully we can move faster.
Just the last point, today we can cycle to the airport.
That's true.
How many?
All the way.
All the way.
All the
right?
way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just talking about just now we were talking about overseas example. I almost forgot. Yeah, I mean, I understand. I'm not an e-scooter guy, but I understand that quite a number of e-scooters actually built in Korea.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Correct.
But you'll be surprised the kind of problem Korea has with e-scooter. when we were there,
Yeah, they asked for our advice. Really?
it's so the whole thing, okay, like such e-devices, for example, it just came up too fast and furious, right? So we are not the only one that is facing the problem.
Probably the whole world, all
The
different
whole
countries.
world is facing a problem.
Yeah.
In fact, recently there was was it last year, right? There was a news, right? Amsterdam police told the government, if you want me to enforce on e-scooter, okay, you need to equip me with a camera, body cam, and that kind of thing. A few things they asked for. Okay? Because they know that it's dangerous to them, right? So they wanted those devices before they do the job. So I mean, even then, a lot of places are facing problems. So we are not the only one.
True.
Okay, so it's just that maybe different country, different culture, different landscape, different geographical size or whatever, that we face different problems, right? But everyone, slightly different. But everyone, I mean, you'll be surprised. Korea is the biggest e-scooter, manufacturer, but yet they are facing problem. And then when we were there, they were asking like, this guy, hey, how do you do? So,
Okay.
right?
We are already very good already, so we shouldn't always.
No, we can be better. I always say we can be better.
Yeah, but we are improving. We are all improving. Yeah. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of all our questions. Actually, before we end, we have something to give you. Mr. Steven, okay? Let me get my intern to pass to me.
Wow.
Okay.
A surprise.
I don't think I have already.
Surprise. He have already. So this is for you, okay? Yeah, can we get a photo? Yeah, this is from us, okay? Certificate of appreciation for your time and effort to coming down, okay? So let's get a photo. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. So let's hope that this whole thing gets through soon, you know.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's everybody's effort. You know, I think the whole nation has to come together. I mean, we talk about this. So whole nation will come together to sort this thing out and then give and take. You know, look after one another. I think.
So thank you so much to both of them for coming. Mr. Denis, will see much more of him. Wow. Because he's a recurring guest. Yeah, okay. So this is it for our live today. Okay, so I think it's a great opportunity that actually all of us come together, you know, to get the chat. Maybe in the future we can get even more stakeholders together, you know, with the both of you guys as well. Maybe we can get some people that cycle to work every day to come and sit down, you know, tell us about their problems. We answer them. Then after that, we can all, you know, come to a consensus instead of everyone just complaining on social media or whatever. Yeah, so I think it's a great opportunity for all of us as well to learn from each other. Yeah, okay, so thank you. This is the end of our live today. Okay, so thank you very much to both Mr. Stephen Lim and Mr. Denis Koh as well. Okay, we will see hopefully more of them to come. Okay, so I think a lot of the questions today has already been answered. A lot of the queries on people's mind, whether we'll ban, whether we'll register, I think from what they hear today, they can have a better understanding. If not a definite answer, of course, there is no definite answer yet, that's why they're asking. But they have a better understanding of the whole situation instead of just shouting here and there, saying all this. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for the live and for joining us today. Okay, so next time you can post other questions as well. Oh, thank you to all the people that post questions as well. Very helpful. Okay, so this is all for the live. So we will join you guys the next time. Next time with me is actually tomorrow. I will have not tomorrow, sorry, Saturday. Saturday I'll have a live with you guys. Okay, they won't be here unfortunately. But next time. Maybe next time they are here, you can ask a question. Can we have both of your signature autograph? Maybe next time. Okay, so this is it for our live today. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
And ready? Yeah. Not yet.
Oh, still wait.
Wave. Continue to wave. And ready? A bit like.
Oh, lag.
It's okay. We assume as lag. We assume as end already. Okay,
Whoa!
Thank you so
This
much.
thing.
Yeah. This one can put on wall, can put on the table also.
For the bicycle.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.